Chapter 17. Where? Cut the camera to him. Several senior stone gamblers said anxiously. The staff next to him immediately operated the light screen, and the slender figure of the teenager was displayed on the super-large screen about 5 meters long. Wearing a very ordinary white shirt and black trousers, with a pair of thick black-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose, he looked inconspicuous and was concentrating on marking a few pieces of wool. Looking at the boy's answer sheet, all the stone gamblers were shocked. They were all correct, and their talent was no less than that of Du Xingyu. Who is this kid? His eyesight is extraordinary. Yes, to be able to distinguish all the fields, the basic skills must be extremely solid. Do you know him? What's his name, and which planet does he come from? Lu Yuanchao, a 6th-level gambling stone master, asked the crowd behind him. Such a good seedling is rare, but it must not be buried. Unfortunately, no one present could answer his question. They have never heard of this young man, and looking at his clothes, he should be of civilian origin. Master Lu, according to the examination room he is in, he is from Proxima Centauri. A staff member replied. Proxima Centauri? Well, yes, you can teach such a good seedling. It seems that the position of the 3rd largest branch has been preserved this time. The head of the Stone Gambling Association flashed light in his eyes, stroked his beard, and smiled. Hearing the president's words, the other stone gamblers looked at each other and made a judgment in their hearts. It seems that the Proxima branch is not as hopeless as they thought, and it is necessary to make more friends with them in the future. And the Vic Star branch president, who was ranked the 4th largest guild, secretly gritted his teeth and felt resentful in his heart. He thought it was a sure thing to rise in the rankings this year. He even wrote a celebration declaration and was just waiting for it to be released. But I never thought that the Proxima Star Guild would have a bad luck, and a talented young man with talent comparable to Du Xingyu saved them from the situation of falling ranking. Why is this boy not in their Vic Star? Damn. Hateful. Bai Jing, who was observing the wool, suddenly felt a sense of being watched. He looked around quietly and found no danger, so he calmed down and continued the exam. Perhaps he is too sensitive. This is the headquarters of the Capital Star Gambling Stone Guild. It is the safest place in the entire empire except the palace, and there will be absolutely no accidents. For full hours have passed since the assessment time. After Bai Jing drank 2 nutrient solutions to replenish his strength, he entered the virtual space again. All of the 55 pieces of wool have been carefully checked. Except for 6 pieces that still have no clue, the number of the remaining wool has been filled in on the answer sheet. Looking at the numbers of the 6 pieces of wool, Bai Jing frowned slightly, intending to save them for the end, but he really couldn't tell that he could only rely on luck. Now he is concentrating on finding the wool that can produce jadeite, which accounts for 5 points, and it is also the part that really tests the ability to gamble with stones, so he must get it. After the observation just now, he picked out 3 pieces of wool from the 55 pieces, 1 white salt sand skin, 1 black USA skin, and the last one is pineapple skin, numbered 12, 33, and 48 respectively. Among the 3 pieces of wool, the one with the best performance is the white salt sandskin wool. The wool of the white salt sandskin belongs to the rock, which is the best in the white sandskin. Due to the long-term weathering and erosion of rain and sun, the skin is generally white, and the sand feels obvious when touched by hand, just like salt sand. As the name suggests, it is called white salt sand. The wool of white salt sandskin is often fine in texture, well-planted, and water-headed. Most of them are glass, ice, and blue-flowered jadeite. Among them, white glass and ice are the most common, and emeralds can also appear. Green contour emerald variety. The wool material numbered 12 is 1 circle smaller than a rugby ball. It is a slightly flat oval shape, with a fine leather shell and 2 bands of green pine flowers on the surface, which are symmetrically distributed and perform extremely well. Although the other 2 pieces performed well, they were far inferior to the wool of this white salt sandskin. He probed his perception into the wool, and after entering it, he felt a strong, active reaction, enough to reach the ice. The size of the jade inside occupies 1/3 of the entire wool, and it is roughly estimated that it is at least 3 kilograms, which is not too small. Logically speaking, there is no suspense about this piece of wool. Whether it is the performance of the wool itself or the texture of jadeite, it is absolutely excellent. Bai Jingying should fill in the number 12 into the answer sheet without hesitation. But it was precisely because this piece of wool was performing so well that he had doubts in his heart. In his opinion, it is no exaggeration that today's practice assessment is called the hell mode. But this piece of white salt sand skin is equivalent to a cavalry, leaving all the wool far behind. As long as anyone who has a little knowledge of gambling stones will not miss it. This is almost equivalent to putting the answer in front of you clearly and waiting for others to take it. Are exam questions really that easy? Bai Jing's intuition was a little wrong. He didn't think these 5 points were so easy to get. There must be something he ignored. He glanced at the exam rules again. Please select the piece of wool that is most likely to yield jade among the 55 wool materials, and if the bet goes up, this item will be counted as 5 points. If the bet goes up, it counts as 5 points. The bet goes up? Between the light and flint, there seemed to be a flash of lightning flashing across his mind, and Bai Jing finally understood the trap in this question. At the same time, I also have to admire the cunning and ingenuity of the question maker. Yo, he was discovered by him. The president of the Stone Gambling Guild said with a smile. Naturally, other stone gamblers also discovered the sickness, and some of them couldn't help but scold the guild leader for being an old fox for actually playing this kind of word game. It is estimated that many candidates will be misled and fall into the prepared trap this time, especially when the questions are extremely difficult and time is so tight. The number of the white salt sand skin wool material is in such a high position, and the performance is so excellent, presumably many candidates will recognize it as soon as they see it, and will not choose other wool materials at all. Maybe these people are still complacent in their hearts, thinking that these 5 points will definitely be included in the bag, but they don't know that they are the poor prey in the hands of the hunters. What is a bet up? The so-called gambling rise means that the price of jadeite in the rough is higher than the price of buying the rough. For example, someone bought a piece of wool with the price of 10,000 star coins and found the worst dry white jadeite, but this jadeite was worth 12,000 star coins, which is also a bet. In the same way, if this person buys a piece of wool with the price of 5 million star coins, even if the solution is a high ice seed worth 4 million star coins, this is a gamble. The title only says that the bet goes up, and the price of the rough stone is not clearly informed, which is the tricky part of this question. White salt sandskin is the best in white sandskin. The output is small, and the base price of each piece of wool is not less than hundreds of thousands of stars. This piece of wool has performed so well, presumably because of the high purchase price. Even if 3 kilograms of ice seeds are released from it, it may not be able to bet on it. After thinking about this, Bai Jing turned his attention to the black Usha wool material numbered 33. This piece of wool is not big, its diameter is a circle larger than the mouth of the bowl, and the skin is black but not covered with wax shell. There is an inconspicuous gray-green python belt on its surface, a few clusters of black cyan pine flowers scattered around it, and ringworm at the bottom, and the overall performance is acceptable. Bai Jing penetrated deep into the wool material, and as soon as he entered the leather shell, he felt an active reaction. It was not very strong, but not weak either. After filling in the number of 33 into the answer sheet, he continued to use his perception to test the last piece of pineapple fur and wool, but he did not expect that there was no active reaction in it, and it was dead and completely different from what he expected. This discovery suppressed the complacency that he had just judged correctly twice in a row, and let him know that he still had a lot to learn, and he must not be arrogant. Looking at the 6 wool materials that were still unrecognizable, Bai Jing sighed and filled in the blanks at will. Whether these 6 points can be obtained can only be left to fate. He checked the answer sheet from beginning to end, and after making sure that all wool was missing, he left the virtual space. At the same time, Du Xingyu also filled in the wool material numbered 33 into the last column and walked out of the number 1 examination room. The two came out almost at the same time. Du Xingyu glanced at Bai Jing without any emotion. A trace of ridicule flashed across his blue eyes, and he sped up the pace of leaving. It was not until the end of the exam time at 5 o'clock in the afternoon that the little fat man Jin Mao and Ngu walked out of the exam room. Both of them were a little gloomy. "Oh, Brother Jing, I won't fail this time. I really don't want to take the exam for another year." Jin Mao grabbed a handful of hair and grinned in pain. "Will not." He saw the efforts of Fatty and Ngu, and Bai Jing believed that both of them would pass the assessment this time. The Stone Gambling Apprenticeship assessment has ended, and the candidates have returned to their own planet by spaceships. The final score of the assessment will be announced on the official website of the Stone Gambling Association 3 days later and will be synchronized with the Star Network. At that time, all citizens of the empire will be able to see the assessment ranking. Of course, this is the part that all the candidates pay the most attention to, but for the citizens of the empire, the most anticipated is tomorrow's live broadcast of the solution. The Stone Gambling Association issued a notice in advance that the 55 pieces of wool as the exam questions will be unraveled one by one under the witness of everyone to ensure the fairness of the assessment. This is the first time in the history of the Stone Gambling Association that the assessment content about the Stone Gambling apprentices has been published on the Star Network. While everyone lamented the perversion of the topic, they were also looking forward to the upcoming calcification. By 8 o'clock in the morning, the number of people in the live broadcast room had reached 50 million, and it was still increasing. The barrage in the live broadcast room is swiping very fast, and almost every second is filled with thousands of words and various expressions, which is dazzling. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the face of the president of the Stone Gambling Guild appeared on the screen. At this time, the number of people in the live broadcast room has reached an astounding 70 million, which is several times higher than the top live broadcasters and stars, and the upward trend has not stopped at all. The people who squatted in the live broadcast room naturally included the candidates who participated in the assessment. They were nervous and stared at the screen without blinking, lest they miss any picture. Ning Yuxuan also stood in front of the screen early. In this assessment, she feels that she has performed well, and she hopes to enter the top 10. She is not worried at all about theoretical knowledge. The only thing she is worried about is a few woolen materials that are inaccurate. Today, she is here to confirm the results. Bai Jing is also a member of the live broadcast tourists, but his mood is very calm, and he came with the mentality of learning. The Stone Gambling Association will definitely explain in detail how to identify these wool materials. This is the most professional explanation, and it is worth listening to. Behind the president of the Stone Gambling Association is a space with woolen materials. Candidates who have participated in the assessment know that this is the virtual space for their practice assessment. He smiled and said, "Thank you for coming to the live broadcast room of the Stone Gambling Association. In order to ensure fairness and justice, this time, the form of live calcification will be used to ensure the authenticity of each piece of wool. Next, the 6th-level stone gambling master Lu Yuan will be the everyone explain." Lu Yuan is in his 30s, with a charming and handsome face, tall and tall. He has more than 30 million fans on Star Domain, and the live broadcast room was flooded with various gifts for a while. Even some local tyrant fans are rewarded with tens of thousands of star coins as soon as they make a shot, which is quite arrogant. The president looked at the continuous gifts in the live broadcast room. His squinted eyes lighted slightly, and the smile on the corner of his mouth became bigger. The fans are so enthusiastic. Presumably the star coins for buying wool this time will soon be earned back.